Out in Broomfield, where the foothills rise, there's a little place with open skies.
I'm Dr. Decibel, and this is The Refuge. Before we get into today's conversation, a quick word about what you're listening to. This is a limited 8-episode series recorded in the lead up to the Refuge's 20th anniversary in 2026. The goal is simple: to capture the spirit of this place in the voices of the people who built it, shaped it, and keep it alive. Over these 8 episodes, you'll hear stories and conversations that trace the roots of the Refuge and the values that guide it: presence, courage, creativity, hope. You'll also get a clearer picture of what the Refuge is today, not as an idea, but as a lived community where real people show up for each other. We're starting at the beginning. Today, I'm here with founders Kathy Escobar and Mike Herzog to talk about how the Refuge began, what it was responding to, and what they hoped it could become. So settle in for a grounded, honest conversation as we get to know the voices behind the Refuge.
A wooden door, a welcome sign. It's more than walls, it's hearts combined.
Kathy, tell us who you are, how you got to be here.
So I'm Kathy Escobar, and my role here now is as co-founder and community cultivator. And on the co-founding part, in 2006, there was a small little group of us who had a dream. And our dream, we'll talk more about that, but we made our dream come true, and I'm still here. And my whole role here is really just kind of keeping the community moving forward and as healthy as possible.
Mike.
I'm Mike Herzog, and I'm a co-founder. And I don't know if I have an official title, but do I? I don't think I do.
I think you do.
I don't know what it is anyway. But what I do is I keep the building, all the maintenance in the building, and procure all the food from different food banks, and then make sure the meals are cooked for the Refuge Café.
Facilities, procurement, and culinary delights.
It's kind of amazing.
It's kind of amazing. I know that you both came from a similar background. Really quick, let's touch on that, and just quickly, how you broke away and decided to come together and headed in this direction.
Well, I met Mike. I was on a big church staff as the associate care pastor. The church had about 3,000 people at that time. And Mike was in the ministry that was centered on recovery. And so that was part of my area as care pastor. And so we became friends. And in those days, we were both, Mike can share more, but both more evangelical. I was always kind of on the edge and the border of that. I wasn't, at that stage, I was already kind of pressing against some of the rigidity of it and had found a lot more freedom in recovery and healing. And so I would say how I got out of it was through recovery and healing, and seeing what happened, the magic that happened in recovery groups, and how, to me, that was how the church should be. And so, unfortunately, some of pushing against that in the systems don't really love change. And that's how we ended up bouncing out and starting the Refuge.
Yeah, I was probably a little bit more evangelical than Kathy at the time. But over time, as I was in the recovery ministry, I came to realize that that's where the true healing was. It wasn't sitting in a church listening to somebody talk and tell me what I should maybe believe. So I was starting to slide towards deconstruction. An interesting thing, though, we had decided that we were going to have this church. So I went to a meeting, and all of a sudden it dawned on me that Kathy was going to be like an equal pastor and a teaching pastor. And so I'm driving home from the meeting, and I call Kathy, and she doesn't answer, so I leave her a voicemail saying, I don't know if I can do this if you're going to be a teacher. So I had to go through, a book that somebody gave me a book. I don't know if it was you or not, but it's a really good book about 2 couples from, I think, Denver Seminary. And 2 of them were egalitarian. One couple was egalitarian and one was not. And they would speak their point of view in the book, and then the others could rebut it. So as I read that book, didn't say it was okay, but it certainly didn't say it was wrong. So I'm going, okay. And then I think my deconstruction really started picking up after that.
Yeah, I can say that was a really painful moment in our beginning, just because it was such a big step forward. But what I did love is that Mike kind of embodied what really we always hope for the refuge, is that we would be open to other possibilities. And so when he was, I was really mad at him. I was hurt by it, that as a female pastor trying to step into what I really believed in. And it was really vulnerable and it was really hard. And so to have resistance within like that close circle was hard. But what was so beautiful is he apologized and he changed. He changed and he learned, and we were all learning together. He wasn't the only one. There were other people that felt that same thing, and they would say it out loud, and then we would wrestle with it. But it was a bumpy start to the refuge. Also, is a really important thing to say. Is just that, we came into this in pain from our old system, with a dream for something different. But with a lot of woundedness at the beginning. And I'm really glad for that part of the story, because it really was raw and authentic, and we weren't trying to fake anything or pulse anything off. We were kind of crawling our way forward. It might not have been the healthiest thing to do, but we ended up in such a healthy place.
Yeah, we even actually talked in different meetings saying we probably have no right to be starting a church from the place that we're at, but that didn't stop us. We just pressed on anyway.
I think those are the old core values talking, because what you're talking about in this pain is just a whole lot of inviting transformation. So the Refuge's foundation was built on transformation.
It was. Yep, it was.
Certainly was.
What were some of the needs that you were responding to when you were, creating the Refuge, when this whole concept was coming together?
Well, it's so interesting because honestly, like who we are today, which we've really evolved away from church as like our core identity, and that it's always it kind of happened slowly and fast, I think both at once. But we were responding to the need of people who were hurting in their lives, and they were struggling to pay their bills. They were struggling with mental illness, with addiction, with divorce, with trauma, with abuse, with pain from church and God wounds. Insecurity, like kind of honestly, all the human things. And so we were responding to the direct need of really just ordinary people trying to human. And ours was, this is the thing about 12-step, is 12-step recovery usually always has all of those things in the same circle. We were also responding to the need of cross demographics, where you didn't just have all of one type in the room. You have everybody in the room. So rich, poor, every age, you have Republican and Democrat, you kind of have it all. Doubters and faithful people, like it's all mixed up together. And that to us was a felt need that you don't see very often.
We didn't want to have all white men. Is what we were trying to get away from.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's what it was. But, we had a dream too. That the dream was, instead of spending our Sundays listening about Jesus, we wanted to spend our weeks doing the things that Jesus told us to do.
Mike, what are some of the things you remember about the first gatherings and some of the community moments in those really early days?
What was it interesting? We were just in a church. A church actually let us use their space. And I think what's interesting was we brought a lot of people. Not a lot, but I think we had 30, 40 people. A lot of them came from that church we were at, and a lot of them came because Kathy came, and an ex-pastor from there came. And people had a dream. We all had a dream. Mine was different at the time. I was thinking that we were going to have one person kind of preaching, and Kathy was going to do recovery. In my mind, was going to be just the big church we're at, more family-like. And I noticed that people came and they'd listen, and people come and there'd be less of those people, and then there'd be less of those people. And it got to the point where very few of the people that actually came with us stayed with us. But other people just popped in from, I don't know where they came from, but different people just started showing up. A lot of them gravitated back to the evangelical church. But the ones that saw our vision stuck with it, and then they started bringing people with them, I guess, because people started showing up.
Yeah, well, and I think a piece was honestly the math. That math's a little off because really at the beginning we had like 150 people were on our list of people that wanted to be part of this new thing. I even have the little wall charts that we did. I have copies of them that we brainstormed. What are you looking for in a church? Where, all these different things. What are some of your dreams? All of that. There were a lot of people there. But what Mike is saying that we did wacky things. Like we sat around tables. Not one person talked the whole time. We had conversations. We took off our shoes to create a sense of vulnerability for a certain exercise. Like we did art. All those things were all things that we did we still do, but we did it a different way then. And those 150 people dwindled fast because they were looking for a mini mega. And because we were at mega church, because when we left, there were 4,000 people there. And then they went down to a couple hundred and they're like, okay, maybe we're going to know everybody and this will be so much more fun. But quickly it dwindled down to a core of people that were really there to be there because they really wanted something different.
It's interesting how the venue dictated to some people's minds what was going to happen.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, and then when we were in different space after that was event center space and that kind of stuff, the church thing really didn't make as much sense, I think, to some people too, because we never really grew in that season when we were in some of those because people were like, what is this? And why are they meeting on Saturday night in an old wedding event center? They were all outside sometimes or not at all, because that was the other thing. We didn't always meet. We met most of the time, but sometimes we did things off site or we did a serve day and we all just went and brought quarters to laundromats and bus passes to bus stops and sandwiches downtown. There were a lot of fun, crazy things that we did.
One night we met in a tent. We never went for numbers, but one time we had an author and he drew a really big crowd, probably the biggest crowd we'd ever had.
Yeah, a lot of people.
And they had booked a wedding in the wedding center. So they got this big tent and then it rained. So we were in the tent and it worked out fine, but it was just interesting. You just knew when you pulled up to the building, go, oh, something's going on? Okay, well, we'll do something different.
Guess I'll be outside.
Yeah, so.
Can you recall maybe a breakthrough moment when you realized the refuge is really becoming real?
Oh, gosh. I mean, honestly, it felt pretty real from the beginning because people were so into it, like really the people who were there really were longing for something different. But I think we had a camping trip, which was started in 2006. And we did it for many years. We still do it because it's converted to just Lake Day now, but it was out at Jackson Lake. And I mean, I think the sense of like, wow, all these people are here camping for the weekend to be together around the campfire. And there were a lot of people. And this was in days where things were more kind of in the church stream, but we were always super outreach oriented and our doors were always open. But we did some baptisms in Jackson Lake. And I still have the picture of that too. And it's kind of like, wow, this is a real thing. This is a community. I don't know. Can you think of when that felt real to you?
Well, I want to say one thing about the baptism. We quit going to Jackson Lake because every one of the biblical plagues happened.
It's true.
In the different years. We had hail and we had frogs. I mean, it was just crazy. So when we went to, where was that?
Estes Park.
Estes Park, okay. So we see this nice lake. So we're getting ready to baptize these people. Well, there's a sign that says, stay out of the lake. Well, we just went ahead and did anyway, baptized whoever we were going to baptize. Well, the rangers saw us, and they took us to task. And the reason you weren't supposed to be in there is because that part of water, sometimes kind of like you flushed the toilet, the water went down, and there was a danger of drowning. And that's why we weren't supposed to be there, but we did it anyway.
These are the kinds of dumb things.
Yeah, we did a lot of dumb things. But I was thinking, I agree with Kathy that it always seemed real. But I think when we really got our footing was when we moved into this building here. Because before we were renting one night a week, and then maybe later on we started having one like half a day that we could do stuff. But we didn't have a home. And then when we moved into this place, we had the building 7 days a week. And then that's where things really started off. And that's when Marty got the idea to do what now turned into the Refuge Café. And then we started really moving further away from the preaching and into serving.
Yeah, I would say it exploded when we got into this building and our work really changed. We already weren't calling ourselves a church before we moved here. We were a mission center and Christian community. And then when we moved into this building, we really kind of started to examine that because we were explaining it all the time. Like it's Christian community because it's in our roots, but like, depends on what you mean by Christian, and we don't have a service. Like we were explaining it all the time. And most people really weren't identifying as Christian. And then the mission center part, which was really our outreach and our care for the community, missions did a lot of bad things in the name of God. And so we didn't want to be associated with that. And so that's where, like, in the season when we got into this building, it took us a little while to untangle from that. But that's when we landed on the hub for healing community, social action, and creative collaboration. And that was a significant difference. I do want to say this too. We got our 501c3 separate from church designation. Churches don't have to get that, but we got it at the very beginning because we knew we wanted something different. We did want to kind of embody something different that was more like doing outreach in a different way and being part of the community in a different way, not only just as a church.
Yeah, and I think we still value the values of Christianity, but we don't have any barriers. So when you say Christian community, people that weren't Christian didn't know. But so we have no barriers at all, what your faith is, what your race is, income status, anything, even your zip code. A lot of the food banks around here, you have to live in the area. So when you had that Christian, I think that maybe didn't help people know that we're all inclusive, because some of the Christian churches aren't all inclusive, So I think that was helpful to get that out and to switch to our last, although probably not our last tagline. We'll probably come up with another one.
I think we're working on one to simplify, because what we have is kind of a mouthful, and hopefully that will be kind of part of our 20-year process. But we did switch a few years after we got into this building. At our 10-year, we moved away from, we never had shared beliefs. It was not clear, but it was kind of it was tangled up in some past history. And we made a conscious decision as a community in a huge way to put that aside and only gather around shared values. And when we did that, it really helped everyone who was all over the spectrum on faith and all over the spectrum on life and all those things just kind of go, oh yeah, I can get behind these shared values if I don't have to like espouse. And it helped me as a leader. It freed me. I always wanted that. I can say that was a piece as, we just grew up. We just grew up. We grew out of some things that we started, and our faith expanded in so many ways, and our work in the world expanded in so many ways, and we just kind of evolved with it. Not everybody loved that, but most people did. That's what was clear. And what's clear now, like today, is that a lot more people are looking for that. Because there aren't very many spaces like that. And so that to me, I'm really proud of that evolution that we've made.
It was hard. We had some meetings that were pretty brutal, but in the end, I think it was for the best. And we only lost a couple folk. And like Kathy said, we got way more people starting to come in because we're completely inclusive now. The only thing you can't do on here is can't be intoxicated, you can't be on drugs, and you can't be violent. Other than that, you can come in.
Let's talk about what you're passionate about now, today, and how that continues to help sustain your work here.
Well, it's pretty fun that Mike and I are still here. I mean, Mike and I, gosh, we started in completely different decades. We'll actually do 3 decades of our lives because we're exactly 20 years apart in age. And the way it hits with the Refuge story, like we will enter 3 decades as part of this community. And that's weird. And also, makes me just so grateful. I mean, Mike is that faithful and true presence that embodies the Refuge. And he does facility stuff now and food and stuff, but he was the I don't care pastor. That's what we used to call him. He was did a lot of chaplaincy kinds of things in our early days. But one of the pieces that I'll say is that we grew into our truest values that we started with related to community and healing. Take out theology, take out all of that. Like that stuff really got in the way, I think, of a lot of our value of inclusivity way back when. And when we really just focused on that, like the human thing, the relationship thing, the people over programs, the long haul love, transformation looks different for every person. There's no everyone wants quick fixes. We're in for the long haul. And we want people to have corrective experiences where something we are wounded by in the past gets healed in community. And for me, the Refuge has been a corrective experience. I had really terrible experiences as a female in the evangelical church as a leader. They were really hard. And so it's been a corrective experience to be in a community that just we can heal and learn and grow and change and let go of things that had its place in the world and they don't matter anymore. So, but they don't matter today, but it doesn't mean they were terrible. It just means they're not serving us anymore. And I think I'm most proud of today, or what gives me the most hope is we really are a community hub for people. We have over 14 programs now. You can be wherever you're at on faith and find your way here, and you cannot want anything to do with anything related to traditional faith and be totally fine here. There's so many ways to serve. There's hundreds and hundreds of people that are connected to this community. I mean, actually, altogether, it's over 1,000. People are connected to this community now. And because we have so many programs and so many different ways that people can connect. And my favorite part is you don't have to do them all. You don't only go to one thing. You can just be part in any way that helps your life be better. And that was hard won to get to this point. And the last thing I'll just say about how much what I'm really proud of how we've evolved. We were always team led, but we had defaulted to some structures from old church, even though we were co-pastoring. We kind of had, leaders that held more weight in the community. And we shifted that 10 years ago to this fully team model where, we have a board that is team-led and anybody can serve on that if they really want to. And then our staff team and a group of over 35 leaders that lead different parts of this, and that there's always room at the table. No one is gatekeeping oh, you have this qualification or you have that qualification. Now you can play. Anyone can join. And I think that that's the power. We have really, it's well over 50 people who just are catalyzing these things freely without anybody pushing them down and just coming underneath and saying, you were always supposed to lead, girl. Are you kidding? You were supposed to do this and here's your place. You have a dream. Let's make it come true. And we didn't have some of that freedom years ago.
Yeah, I think for me, I've transitioned a lot, being able to focus on what I enjoyed. And so I took a food course from the state. And that's when I guess I found my niche because I'd just been dabbling in a lot of different things. But I didn't really have a really strong purpose. And when I started doing that, it really changed my attitude. And I'd have to say, I have really been humbled because what I used to consider homeless people, I've learned are unhoused friends. And that to put people in a box is a terrible thing to do. But I'd still been doing that some. And as I got to know the friends at the cafe and got to know about their lives and not just the fact that they lived on the street, that changed the whole way I went about doing stuff. And I went from getting frustrated with people, for the most part, to trying to look at them from how I would act if I was in their situation and have empathy towards them. And it's really changed how we do stuff here. We now try to cover meals for people that are gluten-free, people that are vegetarian, people that are lactose intolerant, people are all those things. So rather than being an irritation, it's like, okay, this is how I can serve this individual, and this is how I can serve this individual. And being proactive, and when we get a lot of different stuff from a lot of different people, we can sort it out and go, oh yeah, she's gluten-free, so we'll save a loaf of bread for her. And we'll save some cheese because this one can't eat meat. And so, and then we making a lot better meals too. We're just trying to, Costco helps us put on some pretty gourmet spreads. And we've been lucky to have some individual organizations. Like today, we had our food all donated, and it's just really good food.
Tasty food.
Yeah. So when we first started out with soup, that's why we had soup. And now, we have just really nice meals. I think that's where I've changed on that it's given me a lot better attitude towards people.
What are your hopes for this podcast series?
Oh gosh, I just really hope people get a little taste of the refuge and just a mix of voices and just kind of get excited with us, honestly, about our 20 years. Our theme for our 20-year birthday is 20 years of holding hope and building dreams. And so I hope that these episodes, as people listen, are like they feel hope. They feel hope and then part of the dream. Because this dream is, we're just getting going. We just really found our way really solid in the last 5 to 7 years. And so we're really excited about the future. But I do just want to say this. I do also hope for this podcast that people understand how much is missing from it. It's 8 episodes. There's so much that happens here. There's so much of the backstory that we didn't share today. Like there's so many things because it's 20 years. And so just understanding these are just little like snapshots, but to kind of fill in and ask questions about it and wonder about it. And I hope that everyone who listens just really loves hearing all the different ways that our 6 shared values are really lived out. That makes me happy to think that they'll be in front of everybody.
And what are your hopes for the next chapter as the Refuge approaches its 20th anniversary?
Well, Kathy left out one thing, and we always leave this out because we do terrible at it. I would hope that people would think that our mission was worth investing in because there's so many more things we could do, and we do a lot with little, but we could do more if we had a little more. And I think that would be really helpful. We could hire some people to facilitate the things that we can't get done with just volunteers. We just need we need a couple people that are, in the background running things, keeping things running smoothly. That is terribly hard. And I think another thing that we need is just volunteers because there's a lot of times we just don't have enough people. We're growing more with our guests than we are with our volunteers. We're in a good place now, but we can always use more. And so I think it would be nice if people came in and just looked around and see what we're doing, pop into one of our events and see what's going on. Because it's hard to explain to people. But when people come in and they're wandering around and seeing what's going on, they go, oh, okay. It's easier for them to get a grasp of what's going on.
I'm just going to add one thing about volunteering that's really important. We have come so far on volunteers, and it's actually in the cafe. It started to match more what we've needed, but volunteers fall off, and so that's what we always need that. But there's a lot of other ways to be part of the community than the cafe. And that's the juice of the cafe, is that everyone who comes to the cafe come to different things, and that we all participate in those other programs too. And we always need support. And so learning about these other areas on the podcast makes me happy to just be thinking and going to our website and go, wow, I didn't know they had a nature group. I didn't know that they had something for single moms. All the different things that we have, we want more people to know about and be part of.
This summer, we started, or maybe it's in the spring, we started a partnership with Trader Joe's. And we pick up once a week on Sunday mornings. And man, we end up with way too much food. So we're trying to figure out what to do. So we decided we would just open the building from 4 to 5 on Sunday nights, and people could come. They could be part of the community. They could be your neighbor. Didn't matter. Anybody could come, and they could take whatever they needed. Well, we started out, and we had maybe 25 regular people coming. 2 weeks ago, we had 70-some people. Sunday night, we had 94 people.
Oh, 94.
Yeah, that's the number I heard.
More than I thought.
Yeah, and so these are people that are coming in, and they don't live on the streets, but because of the economy now and the problem with SNAP and all those different government programs, these people just have food insecurity, and insufficiency too. So that's a program that we started, and it just happened because one volunteer ended up talking to people from Trader Joe's, and we didn't think it was going to be what it is now. We end up today with more food than we can use, and we're reaching out to another organization that said that they could use what we can't use. So I think that's one of the programs that was an offshoot from the cafe, but it started itself. It's now its own program.
And serving people that can't come to the cafe, which makes me really happy, because there's a lot of need out there, not just for people that can come during the day, 3 days a week.
And it's community for those people as well. And you see it. They don't just come and get their food and go. They're back in the back room milling and talking to each other and carrying on. And it's just like it is in the cafe, or just like it'd be if you had a party at your house. A lot of people are meeting people that they never knew before, and then they're able to get connected with the single moms and things like that. So it's a conduit.
Spending time with Kathy and Mike always brings me back to how much heart and intention sit underneath the Refuge. Their stories, their history, the challenges they've walked through, and the moments that shape them all point to the same thing: a commitment to rebuilding a community that is real, imperfect, and grounded in presence. This first conversation gives us a human foundation for everything still to come. In our next episode, we'll step into the first of the Refuge's core values and explore what welcome truly means in this community. But before we get there, it matters to know the people who set the table. Thank you, Kathy and Mike, for sharing your stories, and thank you for joining us for episode 1 of This is the Refuge podcast. Episode 2 explores the first core value, welcome. Thanks for listening and being a part of this community. For more about the Refuge and upcoming community gatherings, visit therefugeonline.org. I'm Dr. Decibel. This is The Refuge, a community shaped by presence, courage, creativity, and hope. Show up where you are. We'll meet you here next time.